Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video where today we are going to be installing R1 Concepts geocarbon rotors and ceramic pads on our Mazda CX-9. This is going to be a really fun video and I'm so excited to do it. Let's get straight into this. That's right, today we are going to be installing R1 Concepts geocarbon rotors and ceramic pads on our 2018 Mazda CX-9 Grand Touring. This video today is possible, by the way, by R1 Concepts, which they have previously sponsored a video in the past of mine on my 2013 BMW 535i with their geocarbon drilled and slotted rotors and optimum OEP pads, and I absolutely love them. I have had nothing but positive comments about them. They feel great, they stop great, they look great. I love them, I absolutely love them. And so now we are teaming up together to bring you guys a video on our Mazda CX-9 to show y'all that R1 Concepts doesn't only just make performance rotors and high performance brakes for high performance and expensive cars. They make regular brakes for regular cars. Everyday brakes for everyday cars, I should say. And you don't need to spend an arm and a leg. Actually, a lot of the R1 Concepts options are cheaper than OEM and you get better performance. So we're bringing y'all this video to show y'all that R1 Concepts, like I said, doesn't make just crazy high performance brakes. They make regular brakes, they make a bunch of economy brakes, they make some middle of the line brakes, they make some high end brakes, and they make some performance and track and race brakes and everything. They have the entire spectrum and you guys should all check them out. I'll leave a link to R1 Concepts in the description. Check out what brakes and options they have for your car because they have pretty much every car on the road as far as I can see. So take a look at them and see what you find. See if you like anything because I am very, very excited to put these on. I have heard nothing but good reviews about the geocarbon. These are the top of the line economy brakes, regular blank rotors with the ceramic pads, which are a little bit higher performance than OEM, but if you start driving aggressively, they might get a little bit squishy, but this is our daily driver, so that's not really going to be an issue. It's going to be very quiet because the geocarbon rotors and the ceramic pads are especially designed to produce way less brake dust, to produce way less noise, to have a softer, smoother applied feeling. And I'm so excited because this is our daily driver and it's primarily my mother's. I would like for her to have, you know, nice, easy, predictable brakes, which is exactly what this is and exactly what R1 Concepts offers. So like I said, I'll leave a link to them in the description, but let's get to unboxing these brakes and let's see what they look like. Then we'll put them on. £73. This is heavy. 4 rotors and 4 sets of pads. This is a heavy box. Let's get it open because I'm really excited to see what's inside. All right, looks like we got some hardware here. Look at that, awesome, brand new hardware. I absolutely love brand new hardware. Let's get the first box out of here. Very, very pretty brake disc. Look at this. Not too heavy, actually. Feels great. I'm not sure if this is the front or the rear. It has a special coating to prevent rust for way longer than like the OEM brakes would. Like I said, these are designed to produce less brake dust, way less noise, and just brake smoother and have a more linear feel. So I'm very excited about this. I'll put this to the side and open up the other 3 boxes. Yeah, the first ones were definitely the rears. These are heavier. These are really heavy, actually, really beefy. They look very nice, though. They're very nicely made. Nice vents, of course, for cooling and everything. These look great, and you can hear it. They are really, really heavy. They look awesome, and I bet they're gonna feel even better. All right, let's put this away. I don't know if y'all saw that, but these brakes are so heavy, they literally punched a hole out with the disc underneath. And there you have it. Here are the brakes. These are the fronts, of course. You can see they are really wide, really big, actually, way bigger than I thought they would be. Nicely machined surface. Very happy with this. And you can see the rears underneath here. Real quickly though, before I do anything, I would just like to say, like I always say, all of my sponsored videos, that just because R1 Concepts is today's sponsor, I'm not going to be completely biased for or against them. I'm going to give all y'all my honest and neutral opinion and review on these brakes. And of course, the installation is going to be, you know, its own thing. But as for the product, I'm not going to be biased. But real quickly, before we begin, you may have noticed that I didn't really open any brake pads. Where were the brake pads? Well, it turns out that R1 Concepts actually didn't have the brake pads in stock, so I emailed them, and with their awesome customer service, they sent me some brake pads because they did not ship it in the original box, so I had to wait a little bit longer, but that's all right. But that is the customer service that R1 Concepts offers. I emailed them, I told them that, hey, I didn't get the brake pads that were supposed to be in the box, and they were like, oh, that's our fault, let's send you a new box. So they sent me a brand new box with brand new brake pads. Unfortunately, not the ceramic pads like I said earlier, but the optimum OEP pads, which are the same ones on my BMW 535i, and they are absolutely awesome. I love them. So let's take a really, really quick opening at this box, and then we can really start putting it on the Mazda. So let's do this. So the optimum OEP pads are pretty much OE pads with a little bit better performance, less brake dust, and less noise. There we go. Look at that. R1 Concepts optimum OEP pads, ceramic. Let's open them up. Look at that. Very nice. Brings, of course, the new hardware for everything, the new nice thick tall pads, which we need because right now our pads are pretty much metal on metal, and that is just not good. But look at these. I'd assume these are probably the rears. Let's open up the other box. Yeah, this box is heavier. There we go. Look at Jesus Christ, these are huge. Really big pads, very nice tall meaty pads. This is gonna feel so much better than what we have on right now. So like I said, now that we've unboxed the pads and the rotors, let's go start jacking up the car and taking off the original brakes and start putting these things on. So before we begin, since this is a newer Mazda, we have to release the rear handbrake. It's an electronic handbrake. So let's go inside. There's a little process you have to do to release the handbrake. So we're gonna do it right now very quickly. Go ahead and turn your ignition on so that everything lights up, of course. Go ahead and release your parking brakes, of course. Brake and release that. Once you've done that, you can go ahead and slam the accelerator all the way down. At the same time, holding the parking brake down once more. While doing that, go ahead and tap your ignition 3 times. And if you heard that, that was the sound of the parking brake disengaging. So now we can go ahead and remove the rear caliper without messing anything up, because we did this one time without doing this process and we had to get a new caliper. It was not fun. So make sure you do this correctly. Make sure you hear the parking brake retract, and now we can take the rear wheel off and the parking brake off. That way we can actually service the rear brakes without messing anything up. So let's go ahead and do that. So what I've done here is I'm putting the jack on the rear control arm, because the thing is, this car is really too tall for our jack to reach. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do one wheel at a time, one control arm at a time. So we're just gonna lift it up, and it should be easier because it's just gonna be the control arm going up and the wheel should just lift up a lot easier than having to move the whole car up. So we're gonna do that at each wheel. So we're gonna go ahead and start on the driver's side rear wheel first. So on ours, we actually have spacers installed on the rear wheels just to give it, a more muscular look for the car, just make it look a little bit cooler. But we're going to go ahead and remove the spacers, which you may or may not have, and then we can finally get to the actual brake rotor. All right, check it out. We finally have everything exposed and ready to go. So I have the rear rotor here and the rear caliper, of course. And what I'm gonna do, I'm going to remove these 2 bolts to remove the floating part of the caliper. And then after that, I'm going to remove these 2 even further down inside here. You can hardly see them, to remove the actual caliper housing. Once I've done that, I can go ahead and start replacing the pads and of course take this rotor off. I'm so excited because look at the condition that this thing is in. It is old, it is rusty, it is grooved, it is just ugly, and I'm so excited to put the R1 Concepts geocarbon rotors on. It's gonna look so good and it's just gonna feel so amazing. I can't wait. If you've ever replaced the brakes on your car, you know how big of a difference it really makes, and I'm so excited. And of course, main thing is safety, right? These are not safe. There's just metal on metal. So I'm gonna go ahead and start moving the caliper, and then the caliper carrier, and then the rotor. So what I've got here is a 14 mil socket, and I'm gonna go ahead and start moving the floating part of the caliper. All right, so the rear pads were somewhat recently-ish replaced whenever we had our incident with the rear caliper. So these are fine, I guess, but of course, not as good as what we're gonna put on. So I'm gonna go ahead now and start moving these 2 17 mil bolts holding the caliper carry-on. That way we can actually slip this rotor off, because right now it is obviously stuck in place. Let's go ahead and start doing that. So I've just gotten these 2 loose, and they were immensely difficult to get loose. We had to get like an extra pry crowbar, whatever. It was really hard to get loose, but now we got them loose. So let's go ahead and remove them fully. There we go, look at that. Oh, big, ugly, dirty, and heavy. Wow, this is really ugly. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to replace this with this. There we go. Look at that. It looks so much better. Let's go ahead and put this on. But before we put this on, I'm gonna go ahead and retract the caliper so that we can actually fit it on once we have this. So I'm gonna have a little bit more room doing that. So I'm gonna wait for this just a little bit. So we have our caliper and of course the caliper piston, which we're gonna be retracting. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my trusty little piston retraction tool. But before we do that, what we're gonna have to do is a very clever little thing. We're gonna go ahead and go around to the front of the car, open up the hood. We're gonna go over to our brake fluid reservoir, and we're just gonna go ahead and open it up to release any pressure that this may have. So it's easier to retract the piston once we're there. So go ahead and open that up just to alleviate the pressure. Gonna go ahead and put it in. You can see the piston retracting right in there. Beautiful. Look at that. That is in all the way. Awesome. Now we can put the rotor on, pads on, and put the caliper back on. So you may have seen I put 2 nuts here, right here, that we have from the spacer just to hold the rotor on straight so that we, it doesn't clank around while we do everything. So I'm just gonna keep those there while we go ahead and tighten the caliper carrier back on. And once this is tightened on, we can go ahead and we can start putting the new pads on. So I'm gonna go ahead, like I said, tighten this up real quick, and then we can start putting the pads on. So there is a torque spec for these caliper bolts. I'm gonna go ahead and torque them down to 75 foot-pounds with my torque wrench. So let's go ahead and see if we can do that. All right, that was pretty hard. I have to be honest, that was really hard. So now what we can do, of course, is we can get our brand new brake pads and go ahead and put them on. There we go. Now I'm gonna go ahead and torque these down to 24 foot-pounds each. There we go, that is on. So now all I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna remove these nuts and I'm gonna go ahead and put my spacer back on. If you don't have a spacer, of course, this is where you would put the wheel back on, but I have my spacer, so I'm gonna put my spacer on first and then the wheel. All right, we got this on. Wow, that was really hard. I'm gonna go ahead, put the wheel on, and then torque that down. Wow, this was really hard. 110 foot-pounds, by the way. All right, and that is it for this side. Check that out. Brand new geocarbon rotor. Looks so good, of course, with the brand new Optimum OEP pads. That looks absolutely amazing. Now what we're gonna do is the other side, but since the other side is literally the exact same thing, I'm not really gonna film very much. What we're gonna see though is the front. So let's take a look at the front after we take a look at this side, which is, of course, completed. Look at that. Absolutely awesome. It looks awesome. I cannot wait to drive it, of course, with the brand new pads, brand new rotors, everything. It looks so good. It was pretty easy actually doing it the second time around, of course, doing the right side after doing the left side because we already knew what to do and it wasn't really our first time doing it again. So that is on. Everything is nice there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start doing the fronts. So here's the game plan. I'm going to go ahead and remove the wheel, and then from there we're going to go ahead and do the same thing as we did in the rear. We're going to remove the caliper. Of course, we're going to retract everything, and then we're going to remove the rotor. So let's go ahead, get this wheel off and get that caliper off. So using a 17mm socket, I'm gonna go ahead and remove these guide pins that hold the front caliper on. So after we get the rotor off, I'm gonna go ahead and retract these two pistons right here. Wow, look at these brake pads. They are absolutely flat. There's literally nothing left of them. All right, you saw I got the pads out. There is nothing left of the pads, pretty much. I'm gonna go ahead and start removing the actual caliper carrier using my impact, see if it fits on both. I know it'll fit on the bottom one, but maybe not the top bolt. All right, everyone, look at that. We have these two bolts loose in the back. Like I said, they're 17mm. And the best way that we could achieve this is by turning the wheel to the left. That way we actually had more clearance and more leverage all the way through. So we've actually gotten these two loose. Now we're gonna go ahead and remove them. And then once that is out, this whole rotor, which you can see is pretty loose actually, will be able to fall right out. So I'm gonna remove this. Let's get this rotor off and put the new one on. All right, look at that. Rotor is off. What I'm gonna do now, like I've done with the rear, is I'm gonna go ahead and retract these pistons in. So I'm gonna get my tool again. I'm gonna go ahead and put them back in. All right, pistons are retracted, you can see. Other than like a little cut and some bleeding, it was pretty easy actually. Two pistons went right back in. Of course, having the brake fluid reservoir cap open, you know, of course, with the pressure. This is now all the way in. This is awesome. Let's put this to the side, and now we can put our brand new rotor on. All right, rotor is on. Let's go ahead and put the caliper carrier back on. Look at that, pads are on. This looks so good. Nothing left to do now but to put the caliper back on top of the pads, of course, and then we'll put the wheel right back on, lower it. I'll do the other side, but you guys won't see that, you know. And then after that, we'll do the braking procedure, which is very important. You should always do the braking procedure when you get new brakes, especially new rotors. You do not want them warped or anything. You gotta do it the right way. So, like I said, let's just put the wheel back on after we put the caliper on, and then we'll see what we do from there. All right, the wheel is on, pads are on, rotor is on. Look at how good this looks. I absolutely love the look of brand new brakes. It looks amazing. I cannot wait to feel it. I'm gonna go ahead and do the other side, but the next time y'all catch me will be in a few seconds where I do the braking procedure. I'm gonna try to follow R1 Concepts instructions as closely as possible. There are a lot of different methods and a lot of different ways that people claim you should do it, but I'm gonna do it by R1 Concepts way, which by the way is on their website. So I'll leave a link to that in the description so you can check out how to properly do the braking procedure for brand new brakes, specifically R1 Concepts. I'm gonna go ahead and do the other side, and then let's break them in. Also, when we were compressing in the last two pistons over there on the right front side, we noticed that brake fluid started dripping out onto the bottom. I'm not sure if you can see it, but it started dripping out, and we were thinking like, why is this happening? Then we realized since the new pads are significantly thicker all around, and the new rotors are also thicker than the old ones all around, we don't need as much brake fluid because there's less volume in there because the pads and everything are taking up that space. So it's pretty normal. It might happen to you if it just starts bleeding brake fluid randomly halfway during the install. We didn't think about that until, you know, until it started dripping out. It might drip out a little bit, but that's completely normal because you will need less brake fluid when you get new pads and rotors. So real quickly, we got the front brakes on both sides. All 4 brakes are done all around, and I just realized something. I wanted to take a picture for the thumbnail with the rotors, but I forgot. So the rotors are all on the car, and I can't get them off now, right? Because they're on. So just wanted to say that, just so y'all know. I don't know what I'm gonna do for the thumbnail. I'll figure it out. By this time that you'll be watching it, I'll have figured it out. But yeah, I kind of wanted to do with the new rotors, but I can't. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But yeah, let's go break these in. And here we are finally after having broken in the brakes. Like I said, all I did was I went to R1 Concepts website and I followed their braking procedure and I did exactly as they said. And now we have the brakes finally broken in. So let's take a look at what they look like. You can see right there, very nice. You know, I understand they're brakes and there's not much, you know, you can tell about brakes, but you can see they're very nice. They look nice, very nicely broken into. And of course, they are uniform. There's no scratching or anything. There's no grooves. They are of course brand new, but look at that. They look absolutely awesome, and I have to say they feel so good. They feel impressively amazing. And of course the brake dust, I have noticed immediately there is so much less brake dust. On my F10 535i, the rear wheels have the stock brake pads because I had a sort of a thing and I had to put the stock brake pads back on, and the front brakes have the Optimum OEP brake pads from R1 Concepts. The rear wheels are always so dirty and the front ones are always so clean. It is literally a visual representation. I'll put a picture of it here so you can see just how crazy the difference is between the OEM pads on most cars and the Optimum OEP pads from R1 Concepts. But brake dust is not even an issue. I don't notice any brake dust at all. I mean, you know, it's just regular dirt. Before it would be caked on, but now it's really just not. And of course the brakes look awesome. They feel amazing. They are so predictable. They're linear. The braking point is much higher, so you don't have to go down as far. It's amazing, and I really am so pleased because I knew that this would happen. I knew that R1 Concepts just would surprise me again how good their brakes seriously are. So again, I'll put a link to them in the description. Thank you very much to R1 Concepts for sponsoring today's video. And I hope that I helped you, maybe if you were looking to install some brakes on your Mazda CX-9, or if you were just interested and curious on how to change the brakes on a Mazda CX-9. I hope you enjoyed. But also, like I said, go ahead and check out R1 Concepts. They have options for pretty much every car on the road. So go ahead and check them out. I guess I'll leave y'all with that. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch y'all in the next one. Take care.